greenest person on the planet in 2008, and my passion is to inspire people to live a green lifestyle. I myself try to live as green as possible. Electricity bill less than $10 US. I just created my carbon footprint, zero carbon footprint off-grid home. Green living, that's my business. In the morning, we look at our personal lives. In the afternoon, we look at what can we do in the office. What can we do as a member of an organization or as a manager or owner to take our organization, our business to the next level? Again, to shift from burden to planet to healing the planet through product innovation, energy efficiency, reduction of consumption, adding more to the bottom line and coming up with innovations that help the planet. That's what green living and working is all about. To look at where can I be the change and be the difference.
Hello, good evening everybody out there. Welcome to our show here on a Saturday night with Miss Earth Water, Roxie, Baeyens, and Mr. Philippines.
Yes.
How are you, Roxie?
Hi, Sir Matthias. Thank you for having me. It's an honor once again, and I'm so glad to be reunited with you in another virtual talk. This is exciting.
Yes, great, wonderful, and congratulations as well for winning 2 titles, Miss Earth Philippines, and on the global stage, Miss Earth Water. That's wonderful, and I think it fits perfectly with your environmental activities because I think you're very connected with water, right?
Thank you. Yes, I got goosebumps because a lot of my eco activities prior to winning already showed signs that I'm going to be Miss Earth Water. We had cleanup drives by the beach, and then all my photos were by the beach, and most of my environmental activities. So I saw the signs, and it gave me goosebumps that I got Miss Earth Water.
Wonderful, wonderful. So there is a real story of meaning behind it and a mission that you have that goes beyond just the title, that is a calling by itself. So what are going to be your priorities during your reign?
Well, of course, even though I am Miss Water, I still want to focus more on my first advocacy, which is urban gardening and agriculture. So amidst this pandemic, it was actually a trend, and that's my goal. That's my real goal, to keep the trend even when restrictions are lifted. I hope people would still consider planting cool and continue being a plant mama, plant tito, plant tita. I just want to expand the trend also further for it to continue on the next years,
That's
even
wonderful.
if the COVID pandemic is gone.
Yeah. You can see the plants behind me right here in my office.
Those are really nice.
But this is credit to my Filipina wife, not to me. She is the one who maintains them, looks after them, nurtures them like she nurtures me. So
Oh,
that keeps our home a very green and happy place. And, I really appreciate that because it gives as well our kids a chance, despite us not roaming around on the outside due to the pandemic. We still have a lot of nature in the house. So, how about your new place that you moved into in Metro Manila? How are you going to make it green on the inside?
well, it was hard traveling back because I had so much vases and so much plants. I had to let go of some clothes just so my plants could fit. I feel like my plants are really my priority. Well, I'm currently in the province now, but I'm going back home tonight. I'm going to travel again. So it's what Sunday is
Hmm.
watering day. So I really have to come home. As I said, they are my priority. And yeah, it's green as ever. I actually changed the color of my place. Ideally was supposed to be black and white, but I added a touch of green so it would match my plants. It's the
Wonderful,
aesthetic of
beautiful.
my home. Yes.
That's wonderful. They are your priority, your first love.
Yes, my first love and my last love, I think.
Yes, yes. I'm just wondering, because I have a daughter, she's 3.5 years old, and, I hope she can move into your footsteps and the footsteps of other inspiring Miss Earth Queens. Now, from an education perspective and parents, what helped shape your path while you were growing up to become a earth and plant loving and nature loving lady?
Well, it's definitely because of my mom. She is an environmentalist, and I grew up knowing nature responsibility because that's what I see. Children are very curious, and I think it's my mom serves as a very good example. That's what made me follow her footsteps. And also, your daughter is very lucky to have you. Not all children has the privilege to be aware of environmental awareness, and I mean be aware of environmental responsibility and sustainability.
Mm.
So your daughter is also very lucky, and I as well am very lucky, and that's what I wish for my future children as well. Be that kind of example. I owe it to them just as much as what my mom did for me.
Wonderful, wonderful. And how did that practically manifest itself on a daily basis? Like, did your mom take you a lot to the forest or to the fields, or introduce you to nature? I'm just trying to understand the practical steps so I can get some inspiration for my role as an earth-loving father. Uh,
Okay.
what I should do beyond the things I'm doing already.
Well, I live in Baguio, so it's very forestry. But other than that, we have this huge garden, and my mom does garden every day. I have
Mhm.
two older siblings, and when I was young, there came a point that they didn't want to play with me anymore. So I was with my mom most of the time in the garden, and she does this. Yeah, she does this daily. So I'm just sitting by her side. She taught me first to pick weeds, and I thought it was a lot of fun, and I just loved rolling in soil path. I had this huge imagination even though I was playing with myself. The garden was my haven, and maybe that's why I connected to it so much. So having a garden is really a good step towards connecting, I think, children towards the environment, towards nature, since if you grow up with that kind of environment, you would grow fond of it day by day, and it would just give you a light in your heart.
Wonderful, wonderful, beautiful. It's the presence of nature that really opened up, I think, the heart of the growing child. And I can only confirm that from my own experience. I grew up in a village in Germany. I was surrounded by nature. The nature was my playground every day. Hence, I knew intuitively that is my role. As my late father asked me, son, what job you want to do in the future, I told him that my job is to save Mother Earth. He was shocked. His
Wow.
comment was, son, you can't make money from hugging trees. That's not a job.
That's
But
true.
so how do we make money, Roxy, from loving the planet?
Well, I have to be honest. I also did drop my job too when I joined Miss Earth. That was January of last year. And then
Mm,
until up to the coronation of November 30, I had to focus more on it since I had to learn so much. Like I had this
mm,
advocacy, but I had to know more about it holistically for me to be able to speak more, to be able to give more. I had to learn more. So I had to quit my job. And it's a struggle. But in that way, when you do good things, the person above you doesn't leave you alone. He provides. So other than, I mean, even though we have struggles, there's this kind of fulfillment that money or a job would never, a regular job at the office would never give. So it's a sense of fulfillment. And because of that, it gave Miss Earth gave me a lot of platforms, and yes, I actually do still earn money when I get hosting gigs. But more than that, that's just for to provide for my food every day. But the one thing I gained the most from it is the fulfillment in my heart. And I
mm.
wouldn't want any other job. I'm happy where I'm at, and I'm just so grateful to have this kind of mindset.
That is beautiful. And that is as well what I tell people when they ask me about job. You know, if you follow your passion, then you can do the things that really excite you. It's not like a job, it's not like a burden. It is what you are truly in love with. So you can shine, you can exude this satisfaction, and as well, you can become very good in what you do because it's not a burden, it's a passion. And then the opportunities will come, the money generating opportunities will open up. And at the same time, you can as well think rationally about how can I combine my passion, my skill with those opportunities, and then things will flow from there. That's as well my experience. So I'm sure those new opportunities will keep coming your way.
Thank you.
Definitely, definitely.
Yes.
So, what are your tips, Roxy, for the new year for our listeners? What you think we could all collectively, jointly do to make Mother Earth more strong, more resilient, and a more healthy place?
Well, it's 2021, but I encourage everybody to keep the trend. Be plantitos and plantitas. Planting is a very simple word, but it is what sustains billions of lives. I have this imagination that even if each person just has one plant, imagine the massive regreening that would happen if each person commits himself or herself to planting. So it's a very simple word, a very simple act, but once you do it, you would contribute so much to the regreening, mostly after what happened to the Amazon, the massive burning, even in Australia and some parts also in the Philippines. Like a simple act of planting, even at your own home, fully utilizing your space by planting is a good step towards sustainability. And I have a lot of tips also to share if you want to ask me what are the basics when you want to start being a plantita or plant mama. But so far, that is what I encourage everybody to do this 2021. And of course, see, I also am learning a lot about this the past couple of months, saying no to single-use plastic, and fingers crossed that this year we would have a total ban for single-use plastics here in the Philippines. I'm crossing my fingers. I hope for the best. So I hope when there are activities that where we sign petitions, I hope you be able to join that and knowledge yourself as well, or maybe do it in your own do it have that kind of responsibility to say no to single-use plastics even though there is no ban. So those
Mhm.
are my thoughts for this 2021, and I really want to speak more about it to encourage more people.
Sure. So, on a practical level, if somebody says, yes, I'm inspired by Roxy, I'd like to become a plantito, how do they start?
Well, I'm working now with the Department of Agriculture's Plant program. They are giving
Mm.
free seeds away. So if you're thinking that it might be costly to start up, well, there is a government program that supports this. And of course, there's always space. We could always make space. I have a very small condominium in Mandaluyong, but I have more than 20 plants because I fully utilize it. I even hang it. I even put it in my verandas, even areas that are very small. I fully utilize it with racks. So I could put a lot of plants. And the basics is you have to first know your plant. There are good sources, maybe in books or also the internet. There are good sources. But my tips, the number one tip that I give when growing your plant, it's better to underwater than overwater. There's this thing called the power of the finger. I usually do this like when I have my talks, I usually have a sample. But since I'm in the province, I'm gonna test your imagination. So this is the pot. When your plant is growing, you have to stick your finger, and when the soil is still attached to is like kind of wet and and the soil attaches to your finger, that means do not water. But when you stick your finger and it's kind of dry and no soil is sticking to your finger, that's the time that you should water. And with that, when the your plant is slowly growing, of course the roots are also growing. So you have to have ample space, or else your plant will die. More than that, you have to care for it as if it's your own baby. It's also a responsibility, but as I said, it gives you a light in your heart. And I think one thing that would encourage you is that when you start, you would never stop. Like you would fall in love with being a plantita. It all starts with a single step. So I encourage everybody. It's fun, it's cool, and keep the trend.
Sure. Wow. That is very inspiring and very practical with those kind of tips. I remember my wife said, oh, yeah, some of our plants drowned in too much water because my baby daughter loved starting to do watering. We got her one of those little, I don't know what I only know the German word. We call it Gießkanne, like the things you pour the water with. And then she used to
Yeah.
run around and she gave some of them a little bit too much water. Has that happened with
Yes.
any of your plants as well?
Yes, it happens to most of the people I know, and it did happen to me because I care for it too much. Like I'm worried that is it
Mm.
too dry? Is it too? I always get scared that something might happen to my plant, but too much of everything is bad. So when you care too much for it, like it's gonna die. Like so, me, I have to let go of them a little bit more. Because when you're too attached to your plant and you care for too much for it, it eventually dies. So you have to care, but know like the limit of caring. Don't overwater. Don't overexpose it to the sun. And going back to what I said earlier, you have to know your plant because there are plants that needs a lot of water. There are plants that don't. So you have to know your plant. That is the first step towards growing it.
And you mentioned this program from the Ministry of Agriculture, the Plant program. How can we get in touch with them and get seeds from them?
Well, as for my case in Baguio, the seeds are being distributed to the barangays. But in other cases, since I was able to ask, it's better if you go directly to the Department of Agriculture. So you could search that online. Where's the closest by to your area, and you could get your seeds there. And I also had this experience in sometimes when we give seeds away, there are a lot of people who decide not to plant it or they don't know how to grow it. So sometimes we decide to give seedlings away. So I used to also be a seedling distributor volunteer when I was at Baguio, and I think that's what they do now. But it also really depends on the LGU, on the area that you are at. So it's good that you really search on it first before you go.
Mm. Yeah.
But there's a
At what,
program, that's for sure.
yeah, that's great to know. That's great to know. At what time in your life did you plant your first tree, Roxy?
I was 6 years old. It was an apple tree. I know this
Oh,
story so
wow.
well.
Great.
And I
And
told my mom that, Mommy, my teacher said that trees grow from seeds. So we ate an apple, and then she showed me how, and that's how it happened. But it
wow.
eventually it grew for a few years, then it died. That's a
Oh, no.
happy but sad story as well of my first apple tree.
Yeah. I took a small tree from the forest where we were always playing as kids, and I planted it behind our house, and it grew for 20 plus years. But then we moved out of that house, and then unfortunately the people who took over the house kind of chopped the tree.
Oh
That made me
no.
very sad because it was like my baby, that
Yeah.
tree. But as with regards to my daughter, she planted her first tree like just after when she turned 3 years old. I planted it with her on my birthday, and she
Oh,
was
that's
quite
so sweet.
excited. So yeah, that tree is still in on our balcony. So maybe I have to highlight it back to her how much it has grown already. And you were talking about the single-use plastic. I mean, it's a great campaign, but how realistic is it during the pandemic? People use a lot of
Yes.
protective plastic that is like because of COVID, and like loads of people are ordering more online that gets distributed to their homes in plastic wrapping. How realistic is it that we can achieve this moving away from single use plastic?
Well, as for medical use and of course the fight against COVID, we really need this these plastic bags, these plastic containers, but we have to know when it is needed and when it is not. Some plastic industries are already taking advantage of this because we need plastic amidst this COVID-19 pandemic. They are already taking advantage of it. But what's sad is it's not only being used for that. Like there has to be this limitation with a single-use plastic ban. I recommend exceptions, but when it comes to like just buying milk tea with using the straws, that those should be banned in my opinion. But when
Hmm.
it comes for medical use, when it comes to medical use or when it comes to deliveries, of course, when we are trying to lessening the transmission, it is acceptable. amidst this COVID-19 pandemic. So I think we should have a single-use plastic ban with exceptions. But maybe
Mm.
after the pandemic, we could have the total ban. Like I'm being very optimistic. Like some people would laugh at our ideas as well, but it's not bad to dream. So I still dream of it.
I totally agree with you, and I mean, you
Yes.
just showed how that you have a rational point as well, and I think this is as well what really gave you the edge during the Miss Earth competitions. You know, combining the passion and the knowledge with rational approaches. Right? Sometimes environmentalists get criticized for being too far away from the reality, but this just shows how close you are to the reality. We need to be very practical in those terms. Now, passion, knowledge, and realism is a great combination. Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years' time with your environmental advocacy?
I still see myself continuing what I do. There are past Miss Earth Queens that still has the same advocacy because it's true that even if I pass my crown and pass my sash, that will be happening real soon. The advocacy stays forever. So I feel like even though I passed the sash, it's gonna have a mark here forever, and it's in my heart forever. I actually have this dream of entering showbiz after, and I think that that would give me another great platform and a good audience where I could speak more about my advocacy. I'm gonna
Mm.
bring it with me for the rest of my life.
Wonderful,
I'm
beautiful.
confident. I confidently say that now.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm really happy to hear that because that is the most important, that it's a lifelong calling rather than just a temporary mission. And what kind of showbiz do you have in mind, Roxy?
I'm doing commercials, but I hope maybe I would get into movies and teleseries. I hope
Mm,
so.
good, good.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, why don't you start your own thing, right? Then you are even more able to get the message across. I mean, sure, with television, with teleseries, I'm not sure how much the actor inside can influence the content because it's usually the script writer, right, that will bring in
Yes.
certain content. And wouldn't it be lovely if we have like an eco telenovela where the whole story is around saving the planet?
Yes, there is one, G Diaries. Although Gina
Oh
Lopez
yeah.
has passed, she left like this series in ABS-CBN. But although with what happened to
Mm,
ABS-CBN, of course we are not able to watch that often. But me, I
mm,
am still subscribed to the Kapamilya channel. Am I allowed to say that? But I'm
mm,
still subscribed to it. Well, we're promoting environmental
mm.
shows, so I really like
Sure.
G Diaries, where it's all about the environment. It's all about the legacy of Gina Lopez and how to be sustainable in general.
Yeah. So maybe you can get involved with that in the future. Maybe you
Yes,
can
I dream.
follow. Yeah, you can follow the footsteps of the late, amazingly inspiring Gina Lopez. And what touched me was how many people she touched, how many hearts of Filipinos she touched, because people could feel, the genuinity of her, the passion, and she had no other agenda. That's what people often are worried about. Hey, what's her or his agenda, commercial or political? But with Gina, you kind of felt her heart is there. It's so pure.
The way she speaks with
Yeah.
conviction. And sometimes she's
Yes.
even angry. She just stands up for nature.
Yes, yes. And I think that is a very inspirational example of a leader that, I don't know what moment it was, whether it was this last year on her anniversary. A lot of people shared messages, videos, even though she has left us in person. She has not left us in spirit or in message or in inspiration. That is really very heartwarming to see that a lot of Filipinos get still inspired by her message, by her mission, and the purity of her action that she took. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
It's so
so
inspiring also how genuine she is with
mm,
her advocacy.
yes. So maybe you can already start uh, drawing up your own G Diaries, Roxie Diaries version
I'm
in your
trying to gain
mind.
the confidence to be like to
Yeah.
be that kind of spokesperson because it's still a learning process for me now.
Yeah.
Well, I have the heart, I have the mind, I guess, but I still have to gain that confidence. But it's a process.
Mm,
I'm willing. Being an advocate is also being someone who is willing to learn. So every day I
yeah.
learn, every day I grow, and the more I challenge myself to be a spokesperson. Since I used to be very soft spoken, I used to be very
Mm.
shy. So
Wow, that's interesting. That's interesting. I can see that with my daughter. She is kind of very outspoken in one way, but she is as well shy in another way. And, like she speaks in camera, but sometimes when she is conscious of people watching her or listening to her, then she becomes shy. So
yes,
it's nature, right? It's human
yes, it's
nature.
nature.
It's
But
it, and
eventually, you'll find power in your voice if you're
mm,
very passionate about something. So it
yes,
grows
power
in
in you.
you.
Yes, power in your mission. And I believe that your path, Miss Earth Water, is a perfect training ground for all of that. For me, I was shy as well when I was younger. I mean, I was involved in Christian youth groups, and I started giving speeches, which kind of made me overcome that initial shyness. But then later on, it was I was working for a university, and I started part-time lecturing, and that was very empowering for me to then realize, wow, these people love listening to my message
Yes.
and my stories, and that gives you the boost. And we love
Yes.
listening to you, and you already see that the audience loved you. You won twice. You won on the national level, you won on the international level. So there is no more limitation, there's no more barrier for you.
Yes. Thank you.
What did your parents actually think after, while you were going through the Miss Earth experience, and after you won?
Well, they're very supportive. Like, they never doubted me. In their minds, I'm always a winner. So even if I didn't actually win, they would still be very proud because I gave my best. That's what my parents always teach me, that it's okay. It's not every day that you win, but what is important is that you give your best. So
Mm,
that's what I did.
great. Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
What were the other ethics that your parents uh, taught you as you were growing up?
Always find passion in what you do. Like, when you
Mm,
do something, it should be from the heart. In that way, you won't, as said earlier, you won't have to work a day in your life. Just trust your passion. And when you have this, when you recognize your passion, use it to inspire other people as well. That's
so
what they,
beautiful.
yeah.
I love it. I love it. Because, sometimes as a parent, you wonder, okay, how strict do you have to be? How disciplined do you have to be in terms of guiding your children? Or do you really leave it open to them to discover, to decide? Our strategy is more that open strategy, that passion driven strategy. We don't yet force my daughter to learn, to read, and things like that. We leave it open to her. What was the approach that your parents used when you were very young?
They did the same thing. They aren't so strict with me. They just constantly remind me that I have to do well in my studies, and of course, they ask me every once in a while how I am. And I grew up very open to them, and they allowed me a lot. I mean, maybe I was that way. I wasn't like a rebellious kid. I wasn't like a pasaway in Tagalog. I was very obedient in a way that they treated me also as their best friend. So I think it's
Mm,
good to have that connection with your children so they won't have to hide things. They won't have to hide things. And yeah, they were a very good example to me. And I'm just so blessed that I was raised by my parents that way.
that's wonderful. So, what is your vision for your parenthood in the future? How do you want to inspire and educate your own children one day?
Wow, I just wish I would like surpass what my parents and most especially my mom did for me. But I'm more than like willing to, as much as time I'm still very young, so I have so many more years to learn. I will see, like maybe I'm just gonna wing it. I mean, I'm just gonna see how it goes, but for sure I'm gonna be a good example in terms of nature responsibility, and maybe the rest will follow. We'll never know what else would happen, but that's for sure. That's one thing I would do for sure.
Yes, yes, yes. And what do you think will be your preference, even though it's still far away, to totally focus on your children in the first few years, or to combine the process of career and motherhood at the same time? I mean, that's often a very challenging question. And I mean, in our case, my wife is not working at the moment, but that was a joint decision we made. Um, to really focus on the children, but she wanted that anyway. I didn't want to force her either way, but it is really a tough question when you become a parent. How do you organize your life, and do can you focus on the education, or is it a nanny that will look after the children most of the time, or can it be the parents or the family?
Wow, just me thinking about this now, so much pressure. But I mean,
Oh.
I also want to be very hands on, just like your wife. I
Mm,
think I was blessed with that. My mom was very hands on with me. That's why I grew up to be a very obedient child. I think that has a lot to do with the upbringing. Like, you have to spend enough time with your child for her to feel, of course, that she is wanted. Oh no, I'm so bad at
mm,
this.
mm.
I really don't know, but I want to be a hands-on parent. But it's not on my mind yet. Oh no.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I
be
sorry, I moved so far ahead
it's
into your
okay, it's
future.
okay.
It was ahead of
It's okay.
your cycle that you have envisioned already. At the
But I
moment,
have
it's
planned babies now. Maybe I
oh
could
yeah,
relate that. Yes, they're my priority. So I want
yes,
to
yes.
spend more time here in the province, but Sunday is my water day, so I have to go back.
Wow, wow, yeah, yeah, yeah. Otherwise, they'll feel neglected, right?
Yes. And they have
That
emotions. They have
mm,
emotions. Like, they know.
yeah,
They just know if you're neglecting them or not. Like, if sometimes I don't know if you know this word, like tampo. How do I say
mm,
this in English? Like, they tampo. Like, when you are not caring so much for them. Like me, I overcare. But when
mm.
sometimes when some of my plants are neglected, like they make tampo. Like they dry. I mean, yung leaves niya na. Anyway, sorry.
Hindi ko
I have
maintindihan.
yeah.
No,
Anyway,
actually,
that's the thought. Our viewers understood.
I think I know what you're talking about, because the same happened in our house before the pandemic, when we used to travel a lot, because I was giving talks in different parts of the Philippines or even overseas, and I always tried to bring my family along. Obviously, the flip side of that, it's a high carbon footprint when you're traveling. So my carbon footprint, our carbon footprint as a family this year, our electricity bill went up because we spent more time at home. But obviously, I'm doing a calculation at the end of the year, buying carbon credits to make it climate neutral. But the year before, like 2018, now 2019, we traveled to many different countries. My baby daughter, by 2 years of age, she had already visited 5 different countries. So, but now my baby boy, it's kind of totally different. And when we were traveling, sometimes when we came back, our plants were not in a good state, because the care, the love that my wife
Yeah.
and the looking after didn't happen in between. So exactly that emotional connection as well, and the proper watering is important. So it's a wonderful training ground
Yeah.
already, your plant babies.
Yes, my babies, and I'm happy with
Yeah,
them. I'm a
super,
happy
super.
mom.
Yes, yes. And how about as a country, the Philippines? Like, I'm not a Filipino by passport, but I count myself as part of the people that contribute to the
Yes.
country, hopefully. What do we need to do collectively to make the Philippines uh, a greener, a more sustainable place to preserve our amazing biodiversity? What can we do collectively to really notch it up to the next level?
Well, I really would prefer honestly that there would be more laws regarding regarding environmental degradations. I mean, to prevent the worsening of the situation right now in Baguio, we do have the aggressive regreening program where it is now required for those who want to build a house or those who want to get married. So a person should plant at least 30 trees per person if they want to get, as I said, plant put up a house or get married. So it's nice to have those kinds of environmental laws because in that way that's what's gonna push the people to do this collective efforts. I think that's what it needs, like a little push, because that's what I noticed with other people who are insensitive. Like for example, if someone throws trash in the beach, it's
Hmm.
a wrongdoing, but maybe it's because that person wasn't knowledge or didn't have the same opportunity like me and your daughter who grew up with environmentalist parents or grew up learning values in school. So it's more about giving that little push to the people from the government since they have the most power as I see it. And of course with that also the influencers, just encouraging people to do or to push through with this environmental projects. That's why I really embrace working with the Department of Environment and Natural Resources and Department of Agriculture with their existing projects because a lot of people aren't aware of these programs. So we definitely need programs from the government and influencers or spokespersons to give that little push or to let people be more knowledgeable about this. In this way, they would be more open to it and there would be collective efforts from the people. That's how I see
Yes,
it.
yes,
Did that make
great.
sense? Sorry, my thoughts are a
Yes,
little scattered, but yeah.
it makes perfect sense. The collective ability to be the change is very, very powerful if we all do something. If any of our viewers have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. We'll be wrapping up anyway in a couple of minutes. But if you have any questions, please put them in there. If I got that correctly, Roxy, it's a requirement in Baguio when you get married to plant trees.
Yes, how cool is that?
Really?
It's
Wow.
actually just very new in support also for the National Greening Program.
How amazing is that, huh?
Yes, it's so cool. So when I'm gonna get married, I'm gonna plant more trees. How cool
Wow,
is that?
wow. Yes. And how many trees are they required to plant if when they get married?
30 per person, and there's this gist also they have to sustain them because it's not just planting and it will grow. Like you have to sustain it also. Like it's up to you
And
already if you sustain it. Of course, they're gonna give the certificate, but it's up to you. But they're recommending that they sustain it as well.
there is a centralized place where this is happening, or they do it at their home.
There's this place in, if I'm not mistaken, Botanical Garden. Since they expanded it, I encourage you to like visit when you decide to go to Baguio with your family. But I think it's also I'm not so sure in the detail. But as of now, I know it's in Botanical Garden.
Mm, amazing, amazing. Yeah, so please, guys, get married in Baguio if you want to marry, because then you can contribute to a forest being grown there. And yes, we are
Or you could
family.
challenge yourself, even if there's no rule. You could just
Yeah,
challenge yourself.
very good. Maybe we should start, not an ice bucket challenge, but the plant 60 trees when you get married kind of challenge.
Yes,
That that
and
would
also
definitely.
when you put up a house, get married,
Oh
and
yeah,
when you put up a house. Yes.
yeah. Actually,
Hopefully, also when before the students graduate, they should plant trees. I think I heard something like that, but I don't know if it's a law already.
wow, wow, wow. Those are all great ideas. Key moments in your life, plant trees. to give back life for Mother Earth. Wow, maybe that could be a campaign for Miss
And when
Earth.
you look back at these moments, they're very memorable also, and you remember planting trees, so it's part of how memorable it is.
Yes. And you go back there 10 years later. Wow, it's still here, right?
Yes.
I have planted, I mean, I have contributed to planting more than 100,000 trees. The trees that I
Wow.
myself, maybe between 5 and 10,000. Uh, but when you go back to a place where there are trees that you planted, it's such a beautiful feeling.
Yes. Yes, it is. I just
It's the
wish my apple tree didn't die.
Now I'm thinking back of my tree and I feel sad as well. Actually, when we had the christening of my baby daughter, we planted 20 fruit trees.
Wow.
And when we went back to the place as well, like on Mount Banahao, we did it on top of Mount Banahao. Our idea was the fruit trees will all survive. And when we went back there, like a year later, it looked like only half of the trees had survived. And there
Yes,
was
that's
some
the
like,
reality. That's the sad
yes,
reality.
yes. But still, 50% is okay, I
Yeah,
would
it's
say,
good.
you know.
And
Yeah.
also because of maybe the climate conditions, it's beyond our control already.
Mm. Yeah, but I think that is why there is this requirement in that law, right? You plant them and then you maintain them. And
Yeah.
our idea behind the fruit trees was okay, if it is fruit trees, people will be more inclined to support the trees because the tree give you something every year. And I feel we can do a fruit tree campaign and combine that with healthier living because so many Filipinos have health issues and they're struggling with, high blood pressure, all these other things. And I think if we would have more cheap available fruits and vegetables, it could be one way we can help the planet and we can help the people.
Yes, that's lovely. And there are so much potential benefits. That's just the start.
So, Roxy, should we start the tree planting campaign?
I would love to. I'm in right away. Like I'm in. And if you need
Yes,
me, I'll be there.
good, good, good. Yeah, this year I think it might be a bit tricky. Hi, Kat. One of my friends just says hi there in the chat box. Kat, if you have any question for Miss Earth Roxy, let us know. Kat is an expert on green buildings and sustainable architecture. So if you build your dream home one day, he can help you to make it green, healthy, and sustainable.
That's so cool. Nice to meet
Yes,
you virtually.
yes, yes. So basically, yeah, I think that is a great vision. Maybe we can do that in 2022 after all the challenges are over. And but even virtually, inspiring people to do it at those big moments, christening, wedding, graduation. That could be a nice campaign. Maybe something to
Yes.
discuss with the Miss Earth Foundation.
Another good thing to look forward to. There are so much
Yes,
possibilities.
yes, yes. Great, excellent. So maybe a final word of wisdom from you, Roxy. Um, what is the most precious thing about Mother Earth that keeps you motivated all the time?
Well, definitely is that she is so generous. She gives us with more than what we need, and all she asks from us is preservation and a little care. So I encourage everybody. It is said that by 2030, our actions would already be irreversible. And I've read this article saying by 2050, humanity could crumble slowly by slowly if we do not make sustainable choices now. But I am that person who's very optimistic. I have faith in humanity. I know we still have a chance, and Mother Earth is continuously giving us chances, and let us not waste that. It starts with ourselves, and I think it would be more effective if we let our loved ones know this message, let them know that we need to start now if we still want our home to be habitable for the next generations. If we are breathing now, then we owe it to the future children too. So a green life is a better life, as I said in my Q&A, and I hope this 2021 let us challenge ourselves to be better for the future and walk lightly on earth. It is our responsibility, and let us take that at heart.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Nothing more to add. Listen to Roxie, Baeyens, Miss Earth Philippines, Miss Earth Water. Follow her guidance, her inspiration. Thank you so much, Roxie. See you all soon. I hope that these final words from you will stay with everyone and continue to motivate our hearts and minds.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
sir.
much.
Thank you, Sir Matt. Yes, again, it is an honor. And also, thank you for all that you do.
My pleasure. Thank you. Good night,
Thank
everybody.
you. Good night, everyone.
How do I envision a sustainable Philippines? Well, I think it all starts with a more conscious citizenry, where people are more conscious about how they eat, how they buy, and how nothing should go to waste. I think when we start with a mindset like that, then we can have a more sustainable Philippines.
A sustainable Philippines is our beloved country flourishing as God intended it to be. Its people are happy, content, progressive, and conscious of their responsibility as good citizens and consumers. Industries protect and respect their workers, as workers protect and respect their employers. Our natural resources are not abused by industry. Instead, they are used wisely and thoughtfully, and even protected so that future generations may have the benefit of enjoying an environment that is hospitable, healthy, lush, verdant, and vibrant, with the flora and fauna that will set it apart from other Asian countries.
A country where individuals and organizations make intentional, responsible consumption and production every single time, where all cities are sustainable and communities meet their own goals without compromising future generations to meet their own needs.
I hope and envision for a sustainable community, whereas people of our country share a common purpose, and that is to acknowledge our future without reducing the resources that maintain them. Let us continue to promote, educate, and share with everyone how to better understand and embrace a sustainable living.
I hope for a sustainable Philippines wherein everybody has jobs, there is no poverty, we have responsible government, there is clean environment, and everybody believes in God.
A sustainable Philippines is grounded on life-focused, Bible-centric values that transcends to future generations.
A sustainable Philippines fosters development through human perspective in rights reform, greener environmental considerations, agribusiness partnerships, and strengthens to empower the integrated ecosystem, making impact to the people.
Hello. I envision a sustainable Philippines where we have a clean environment, not only outdoors or in our cities, but also in our workplaces.
I'm Gabby Avante, a biology sophomore from DLSC Manila, and I envision a Philippines that is aware, educated, and willing to take action to pursue a sustainable society for all.